The song "I Said I Love You First" started out as a sweet tribute to the relationship between Selena Gomez and Blanco. It was meant to reflect their bond, something light and romantic. But as the album took shape, that feeling shifted. What began as a couple's love song turned into something much deeper and personal, mainly for Selena. Benny didn't see that shift coming. What he expected to be a simple project about love ended up revealing a lot more than either of them probably planned. And when the album was finally released, Benny's reaction left people surprised. So, what actually changed along the way? Benny later said that people are always going to have their own opinions. He tried to stay relaxed about it, but you could hear it in his voice. He was uncomfortable. He insisted that fans were reading too much into the songs. But once people get a certain idea in their head, especially when it comes to celebrity relationships, it's hard to change their minds. Benny's calm explanation didn't really do much to distract from the bigger questions fans had just 2 days before the album officially dropped on March 21st. Selena released a video on Spotify posted on March 19th. In it, she said clearly that the album wasn't about her past with Justin Bieber. Her tone was peaceful, even soft. But fans who have followed her story for years weren't convinced. The timing, the lyrics, and the emotional weight behind each track made it hard to believe this was just coincidence. Selena said her songs weren't about any one person in particular, but for many, that didn't feel honest. To longtime fans, it all seemed way too familiar. The lyrics described emotions that matched her well-known past, especially with Justin. For people who had watched their public relationship rise and fall, it didn't feel like fiction. One song in particular stood out. "You Said You Were Sorry" includes a lyric about a dream where an ex finally apologizes, a moment Selena never got in real life. The line, "I had a dream you said you were sorry, that was enough for me," touched people instantly. It didn't sound like a made-up story. It sounded like something deeply personal, something she'd held on to for a long time. That one line made fans draw connections immediately. Many remembered Justin Bieber's 2015 hit "Sorry," a song he openly admitted was partially about Selena. In a moment during his appearance on The Ellen Show, Ellen pressed him about the inspiration, and Justin finally confirmed it. That moment stuck in the minds of fans for years. Now, it felt like Selena was finally giving her reply not through interviews but through her music. One person tweeted, "Track 11, you said you were sorry. That has to be about Justin. I want it to be true, honestly." Another pointed out how the title seemed to reflect Justin's old song. Like Selena was responding directly to that chapter in their past. The conversation exploded online. Fans began comparing song lyrics, old interviews, and video clips. Everyone was suddenly re-examining the entire Selena Justin timeline. The buzz wasn't just about how emotional the songs were, it was about how intentional they felt. It seemed like Selena had waited years to say these things, and now that she had, people were hanging on every word. But that wasn't the only song that got people talking. Before the album was even released, another track had already stirred things up. "Younger and Hotter Than Me." The title alone grabbed attention. But once people heard the lyrics, it hit even harder. Selena had mentioned a few lines in an earlier interview, and they were unforgettable. "I used to feel like an angel. Now I'm a dog on your leash, begging for more." That line wasn't soft or romantic. It was honest and painful. When the full song came out, it painted a clearer picture. Selena sang about walking into a room filled with women who reminded her of everything she felt. She'd lost her beauty, her confidence, her place. In one part, she sings, "All the girls at this party are younger and hotter than me." Then the chorus lands with full force, "Wish I never loved you. We're not getting any younger, but your girlfriends seem to." To fans, this didn't need much decoding. After Selena and Justin's final breakup, it wasn't long before he was seen with Hailey Baldwin, someone younger who quickly became a central figure in his life. Hailey is about 4 years younger than Selena, and to the public, that detail was hard to ignore. The timing of everything only made the comparisons stronger. The song didn't feel like a metaphor. It felt like Selena was writing directly from her memories. Each word had weight, like it came from someone still working through pain. It wasn't just another breakup track. It was about what happens after the quiet, messy parts no one sees. Even though she never said Justin's name, it didn't really matter. The stories in the songs lined up too perfectly with her past for fans to believe they were fiction. People had followed her life closely enough to recognize the patterns and references. Now, with this album, it felt like they were hearing her side of everything they'd watched unfold in real time. Then came the track that really got people talking, "How Does It Feel to Be Forgotten?" Just the title hit hard. But the lyrics pushed it even further. Selena didn't just touch on heartbreak. She brought listeners into that moment when the pain lingers, long after the actual breakup. She sings, "You walked in, big ass grin, talking like we're friends. "Honey, what were you thinking?" Her voice was sharp like she was done pretending everything was okay. And then came the line that cut the deepest. "He loves me. I love him. Look at you. Just look at you now." It was like she was facing someone who had once meant the world to her and letting them feel what it's like to be left behind. Fans quickly linked it to her older song, "Look at Her Now," a track that had shown her strength after a tough breakup. But how does it feel to be forgotten? It wasn't about bouncing back. It was about standing in the wreckage and making sure the other person saw what they'd lost. There was no apology, no forgiveness, just truth. For anyone who still had doubts about who these songs were about, this track pretty much answered it. The emotion in her voice made it clear these weren't made-up stories. They were her lived experiences, turned into music. Another track that drew a lot of attention was "Don't Want to Cry." It explored the kind of relationship that keeps breaking and fixing itself, an exhausting loop of breakups, and promises that lose meaning. One of the most talked about lines was, "I know I said I'd forgive you once, but baby, it's been 100 times, and I still crawl back for more." Fans instantly connected that to Justin's line from his 2015 song, "Sorry I Made Those Mistakes Maybe Once or Twice." By once or twice, I mean maybe a couple hundred times. But this time, Selena wasn't just responding, she was flipping the perspective. Instead of hearing an apology from someone who hurt her, she was showing what it's like to be the one always trying to move past the pain and forgive. The story continued to unfold in the lyrics. Later in the song, Selena talks about seeing her ex with someone else and how it hurt, like she was invisible. It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet and controlled. She sang, "I should cause a scene for what you've done to me, but we both know I never will." That one line said so much. Instead of yelling or lashing out, she expressed the type of pain that sits deep, the kind that doesn't explode, just lingers. One of the most emotional lines in the entire song came when she said, "Everybody knows I'm just another hand you hold in the toss." It was a painful realization, feeling like she didn't really matter, just one person in a long line of temporary connections. In a special album edition, Selena opened up about what inspired the song. She described it as a moment of emotional release, where she finally let go of a relationship that had drained her. It used to feel real, but somewhere along the way it had turned into something confusing and painful, she said. Writing the song helped her get some of that weight off her shoulders. Even though Selena never mentioned names, people knew who she was singing about. The emotion in her voice, the specific lines, everything pointed back to one person. One of the last lyrics said, "I still cry, but not as much as I used to." It was subtle, but powerful. It showed growth. She wasn't broken anymore. She had survived. This strength wasn't just in her music. In a heartfelt conversation on Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast, Selena talked about the emotional impact of her past relationships, especially her history. With Justin Bieber, she didn't say his name, but it was clear who she meant. She spoke honestly about how lost she felt at the time. She said her emotions were all over the place and she didn't really understand herself back then. That's when she made a decision to step away. It wasn't about giving up, it was about finding peace. She gave herself space, saying she took 5 years to heal, reflect, and look at her patterns honestly. She needed that time away from the spotlight to figure out what love really meant to her and what kind of love she deserved going forward. Even though she avoided naming Justin, his presence was felt in every word. But instead of bitterness, there was calm acceptance. The pain had become something she could live with. It wasn't an open wound anymore, it was a scar that reminded her of how far she'd come. To really understand why this all still touches people so deeply, you have to go back to where it began. Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez weren't just any celebrity couple, they were one of the most talked about pairs in pop culture. Their story began in 2009 when their managers introduced them. What started as a sweet friendship quickly became something more. By 2010, they were seen having pancakes at an IHOP, and people instantly took notice. But the moment that confirmed their relationship for the world was their kiss on a yacht in St. Lucia. Selena was 18. Justin was just 16. They were young, famous, and under constant public attention. For a while, they seemed to handle it well, showing up together at big events, taking trips, and sharing quiet moments that still ended up on magazine covers. Their fans weren't just watching from the sidelines, they were emotionally invested. Too many, their relationship felt like a modern fairy tale. Still, that level of attention brought its own set of problems. The perfect image started to crack as the years passed. By the end of 2012, they had gone through their first major breakup. It wasn't explosive. It was slow, messy, and dragged out in public. The once picture-perfect relationship became unpredictable. By 2014, Justin's life was taking a wild turn. There were legal issues, constant headlines, and even an incident involving his pet monkey being taken away at customs. He was gaining a reputation for being unpredictable. At the same time, Selena was quietly dealing with her own personal battles. She went to rehab not just to manage her health condition, lupus, but also to escape the emotional pressure building around her life. Justin was still showing up in gossip columns, often pictured with models or in situations that kept his name. In the news, Selena stayed quieter, but her silence didn't erase their shared past. That emotional weight was still there. Then came November, and Justin unfollowed Selena on Instagram. It might seem like a small thing now, but back then it was a big deal. It felt like he was closing a door. Still, in interviews, they both kept showing a level of care. Selena told Ryan Seacrest she would always support Justin. Justin told Access Hollywood he would never stop loving her or making sure she was okay. Those weren't just polite answers, they were emotional leftovers that hinted there was still something unresolved between them, and it didn't take long for that tension to resurface. Fans often refer to 2015 as the lost Jelena years, a time filled with blurry lines, subtle signs, and constant rumors. Both were linked to other people. Selena had a short relationship with DJ Zed, and Justin's name kept popping up next to Hailey Baldwin. Still, the question stuck around, was Jelena really done? Then came Justin's Purpose album, and the focus shifted again. Fans dissected every line, searching for hidden meanings. Love Yourself stood out. It wasn't labeled as a song about Selena, but he didn't deny it either. He didn't need to. The lyrics hit too close to home by early 2016. Things between Justin and Hailey looked serious, and for a while it seemed like Selena and Justin's story was finally over. But with them, nothing ever really ended completely. All it took was a single photo, one unexpected meeting at church, and just like that, everything was back in the spotlight. By the end of 2017, Selena and Justin were officially reconnecting. This time, it felt different. Selena had just gone through a kidney transplant, a life-altering experience that made her see things in a new light. So when she was seen having breakfast with Justin, right after ending things with The Weeknd, it didn't come across like a PR move. It looked real. In the days that followed, they were spotted biking together, going to church, and sharing quiet, meaningful moments. These weren't the typical public stunts.